Introducing the Open Palm Podcast, hosted by Jerome Shaw. Available today on your favorite podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor.fm, and many more. The Open Palm Podcast, where the host engages his listeners with inspirational messages, motivating themes, and thought-provoking ideas. Topics include: make more mistakes, how much is your value, don't get right, get going, learning to let go, excellence is a habit, and more. Binge listen today. Subscribe today. It's getting excellent ratings. That's the Open Palm Podcast, hosted by Jerome Shaw. You can also find it on YouTube. Make sure you share it with your social networks and connect on Twitter and Instagram at Jerome Shaw. That's the Open Palm Podcast with Jerome Shaw. Available today on your favorite podcasting platforms. Go listen, download, and subscribe now.
My friend, I can tell you firsthand, from firsthand experience, the ego is never satisfied. Ego is never satisfied. There's never a point where we can't have more. The ego always wants more and wants more and wants more and more and more. Ego, also known as etching God out, also known as earthly guide only. When we're not following our spirit guides, we're following our earthly guide only. We're following our ego. The ego weeps for what it has lost. The spirit rejoices for what it has found. When the ego weeps, the spirit rejoices. Now, ego, it's a part of us. We all have this ego, this wanting, this needing, pleading, desiring, craving, insisting, right? Begging. This thing inside of us that just is nagging at the back of our minds, wanting things, whether it's food, whether it's any addiction, any craving, anything that we might want. The ego always wants more. Spending money on things that we know we don't really need. The ego is never satisfied. And we can trick ourselves into thinking that we can bargain with this thing inside of us, this ego, is earthly guide only. But in my experience, there is no bargaining. When we bargain, we only lose our part of our spirit. But when the ego weeps, the spirit rejoices. We can put down the ego. We can put it in its place, in its proper place. And once we do that, we can rise again. Like phoenixes from the ashes, we can rise from any state that we have been put down or downtrodden. We can rise. The ego does not need to win or prevail over us, over you. The ego does not have to win. Allow yourself to be free. If you have trouble working with your ego, working with addictions, working with things that nag and gnaw at the back of your mind, constantly pulling you this way and that, pushing you off balance, making you lack focus, making you lack restraint. If you have trouble with this, perhaps a new tactic is needed. Perhaps desperate times may call for desperate measures. In my case, I've employed and had the assistance of wonderful friends, people who I trust, to boost me in ways that may seem a little out there. Things like, if you have trouble buying everything in sight and someone close to you is nearby, giving them your credit card and telling them, do not give this to me, even if I ask for it. Hold on to this and don't let it go. Put this somewhere and don't give it to me until this date. Right? To exercise self-restraint, to force yourself. Because we're motivated by two things often. We make changes due to inspiration or desperation. We are always moving towards pleasure or away from pain. So, does it hurt enough yet that you would make desperate changes, drastic changes? Or if it doesn't hurt enough yet, what is the pleasure that you are seeking that will get you to move, to shift, to change your thinking and change your life? Don't try to bargain with your ego. My advice is not to play with it. This is serious business. You could end up losing a lot more than you bargained for. But if you're smart, a tactician, you can beat the ego at its own game. Don't give up. Above all, my friend, it does not matter how quickly or how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Thank you for listening. This has been Jerome Shaw on TOP. That is the Open Palm Podcast here in Sherman Oaks, California. The Open Palm means harmony with the world, understanding our place in the world, using our skills accordingly, greeting the world with an open palm instead of a closed fist. I pray that you receive the kind word that would allow you to master your ego, master yourself, master your life, and put you on the good foot, on the right track to doing so. Share this episode with a like-minded individual who's learning and growing, becoming their greatest version just like you, learning how to cultivate themselves. Pay it forward so more can hear the message. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, definitely subscribe for more inspiration like this. Send in a voice message to the podcast. I would love to feature you. Any nuggets that you learned or any kind words you'd like to leave. And if you feel compelled to support the podcast, then consider opening your browser to anchor.fm/jshaw, and supporting it there is much appreciated, my friend. Be blessed. You are loved. You are appreciated. You are one with all that is. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you are, and take care. Hey there, my friend. So you've heard about Anchor, but do you know why it's the easiest way to make a podcast? Well, first off, it's free. It allows you to use creation tools that let you record your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Can't wait to hear yours. Let's see what you have to offer the world.